This is a tweet from CNN, and it says basically, this is interesting, that the White House accidentally emailed House Democrats a list of talking points yesterday that were intended for President Trump's administration allies in response to Ukraine scandal, and then asked the Democrats to send it back to them. How interesting is this? Interesting is this?
Trump's administration is trumped up. I tell you, the guy is having his clowning moments, and he actually faces impeachment. Yeah. Out of the 218 required to impeach a president, 204 have already
yes, with Pelosi.
And including Republicans
themselves,
who wants to demonstrate that no, we have not lost our heads if one of us has lost his head. And I think by the day it is increasingly becoming near certain that he will be impeached. It would be historic, you know, because no one ever imagined that a sitting US president would be impeached, but Trump has, you know, decided to do all these wrong things. The thing is, Trump
doesn't even know it's wrong.
No, Trump is a populist. No. Trump is a very brilliant guy. You guys, do not be fooled. Trump is a brilliant human being. It is only a brilliant human being who can consistently con people, up to and including those who write his autobiographies. The guy is so brilliant. He's conned his way to the top to be, you know, to be one of the leading business names in the US, and conned his way right to the presidency. I remember at the height of the campaigns when he was running against Jeb, and people thought that Jeb would be his biggest problem. I just kept saying, if Hillary Clinton is going to be the one who gets the ticket against Bernie Sanders, Trump will be the president. Because he is populist. He has understood what the Americans want, the Republican base. And he speaks to their basest of thoughts. You know, he's cantankerous, he's lost his head, and he has a cheering battalion behind him saying, go boy, we have you.
And he likes the attention.
He loves, he bathes in that attention.
In fact, I remember one time I was watching an interview on CNN, and one of the Republicans who had left, she was a commentator for the Republicans. She said, if you want to control Trump, stop giving him the attention.
That's it.
If you stop giving him the attention, he will stop doing what he does.
It's what populists do. The day you choke him of attention, I'm telling you, even the populists we have in this country, the day you choke them of that attention, the day you do not limelight them, they will just fizzle out because you punch their egos. They know that they can become what they become because they have the attention. The day Nganga realizes that there is no attention for him, he will stop the side shows that he's doing. And that is the way to deal with this guy.
Okay, let's put this in a minute or so into perspective. The investigations concerning Ukraine, it's interesting. And now he's termed the impeachment as a joke, right? And put Biden right in the middle of everything.
No, you know, Trump is bound to do everything he can because his greatest opponent, who will go with him mano a mano, is Joe Biden. I know Elizabeth Warren is great, and they are very wonderful contestants, the Cory Bookers of the world, very good. But the one person who is able to hit Trump point by point and give him a dose of his meal
is Joe Biden.
Who is able to go with him, you know, when you want to fight like a pig, he will become a pig. If you want to elevate the discussion to an intellectual discourse, of course Trump is incapable, but Joe Biden will raise the bar. He is bound to mar him and muddy him. He did that with Hillary.
But he's only doing that based on age, nothing else. And the age difference is about 4 years.
The difference is so similar, it's shocking.
There's no difference.
The difference between Trump and Biden is so similar, it's shocking.
Yes, but it's more brilliant. And I like what happened in the last debate by Democrats when there were only 10 on the panel. You know, everyone was talking about Obama's achievement, so they know that's something to ride on going forward.
I mean, Obama, especially Obamacare. You know, Obama's had great achievements. The Republican machinery tried to diminish the achievements of Barack Obama. And of course, it was driven by the racist perception that a black man cannot rise and achieve so much that even whites did not do. But as the days have gone by, you have seen Republicans witnessing and saying, I tell you what, there hasn't been a better solution for our health problem than Obamacare.
All right.
So they are bound to ride on that. Everyone wants to endear themselves because Obama's image looms large over the American election.
The 8 years was some of the best years for the Americans.
8 years of excellent performance on the stage. 8 years of no single mistake. I tell you,
No
I want to be
scandal,
Obama.
absolutely.
I want to be Obama.
Well, Trump will disagree, and Republicans will disagree. Let's bring the discussion back home now, even as we wait for Ben.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that is key, something that is important, and I really wanted him to be here. But let's talk about the revelations on Monday in court that the data that we gave out in form of names is very likely to be compromised. How much? I know we had this discussion on names here, and I know we spoke about how people were resisting it. I even remember, if I'm not wrong, Ben, at one saying, will not sign up for this thing. And now an expert comes and testifies and says this thing can be compromised. Your data is not safe, including your emails and phone numbers. How disturbing is that?
Now, you know, I remember asking in one of the fora, even though the idea and concept behind NIMS is a brilliant one, but its execution to me looked a bit hurried, especially knowing very well that we were going to have census a couple of months down the road. It seemed to be a replication of roles and resources. I stated, and I still believed, as a matter of fact, that if you have wonderful ideas but you don't prepare to execute them well, then the wonder in them is sniffed out. At the time we were working on this, there was an outcry. There has been a push for a data protection bill.
Before even the registration.
The data protection policy is non-existent in this country. There is work that's been going on about it. The easiest we came to was when MPs were named along Waziri Chacha, and you know, now they said these people are going to be harassing us, they're sharing what, and then we had some mumble jumble about the whole thing. Unless we have data protection laws that guarantees the citizens that any data that's private is going to remain private, and that anyone who accesses that data will have to get, you know, there's a standard operation procedure of how to acquire any data on anyone. Unless you have that framework set up, then all the data that is out there, because even the data that they were taking from us is already with the government in one form or another. But that's how you end up with messages from companies, promotional messages that you did not sign up to, because the data is being abused. So
it's being shared across
that revelation does not shock me at all. It would shock me if I lived in Belgium. But now that I live in Kenya and I'm alive to the realities of our context, and I had flagged that this is a brilliant idea. Its execution is not convincing. It does not persuade me that the way it's being executed will end up with something meaningful. The expert has just come and confirmed that the manner in which the whole data was stored or even taken down, you know, put together, had holes, and our data is not safe. So if it lands in the hands of competing countries, because now we are, you know, in foreign policy you have different interests around the world. If someone has access to this data for whatever reason they want it, up to and including your email address, and they know it's Ken Mijongo, and they want to hack, and soon, and they even have PSs who registered on those data with the private emails, who handle sensitive government you know, affairs. You compromise the security of the country first, which is a no-go zone. The integrity of our country part of it relies on the data that we have and that we shield from the outside world. So I don't know, I await a comprehensive response.
But you see, you've escalated the discussion, because what he's main concern with is even the safety of that system. It's not foolproof. Yeah. Which means someone can be hacked.
Yes, you know, when you hack that system, you can change your details. So if your ID number is so and so, the hacker can hack the system, change your ID figures, messes up with the integrity of the whole data. Once you mess with the integrity of that data, then what's its worth? Because the value of that data is to ensure that there is verifiability in case of anything. Yes. That we know the person who has defaulted in paying his loan is person X of identification number this, of NIMS number Y. If the three of those data can be played with, then
so that your ID number is given to Ken,
it's no longer
fingerprints is assigned to you.
So you just go
else.
to court and say, they say I defaulted in the loan.
Yes.
The thumbprint is not mine. The ID is not
mine.
Why are they accusing
the
me?
The third name is not mine.
5 billion.
Interestingly, I saw someone explain this yesterday. It's very simply, and it's understandable that way.
Yeah.
That this is like sending a Word document out which is not PDF.
Exactly.
Yeah. So someone can just edit and do whatever they want to do.
It's like Wikipedia.
Yes. And send it back.
and send it back to you and say, no, this was yours.
What a tragedy for a country. Especially the fact that this was never explained beforehand. Especially that civil societies went to court to challenge this and tell them, hey guys, think about this before you do it.
Yeah.
And everyone said, and at one point, the arrogance with which we saw the government officials, CAK for example, if you don't do it, you will not access government service. You'll even switch off your mobile phone. Then months later, you tell us, even the integrity of the data you gave us is not safe. What a tragedy.
To the credit of the Ministry of Communication, Musheru, and I think Oguna touched on it a bit as a government spokesperson, and even I remember Nzioka Waita, the State House Chief of Staff, wrote and said, no, the threats by CAK have nothing to do with this process. So that is something that we don't know about. So to their credit, they tried to elucidate on that and make it very clear.
But someone has spoken.
However,
yes.
However, we are talking of 6 billion shillings lost. That was the amount set aside for that process. Okay. It was hurried. Kenyans did not understand what it was about.
We still don't understand.
And the persons that were tasked with ensuring they communicated the essence of the whole process did not do a good job. So the uptake was very low in my estimation. Very few people got registered on it. We could bandy figures around and say millions have registered.
During the mass drive.
Very few people took up that whole thing, not because it wasn't a good thing. I tell you, globally, in developed countries, what we call NIMS here is a normal thing. It's very helpful. It helps track down offenders. It helps it organizes the country. But if you take a brilliant thing and you don't replicate it well, and that is why I said, as a public policy person, I am big on something called understanding context. Whenever you're internationalizing any policy, the internationalization of any policy is meaningless without regarding the context in which this new policy is going to be implemented. So if you lift a good idea from the United States, or you lift it from Denmark and you bring it to Kenya, but you do not look at the contextual differences between Kenya and the country of origin, then that policy is bound to fail. That's what they didn't do. They did not understand that Kenya does not have the sophistry that the other countries that have done this enjoys. They did not understand that Kenyans need to be persuaded before they get on board so that they understand all this. They did not understand that there had been ventures like the new ID that we were told would capture all these details. Now, because of those variances and divergences, we ended up with this stalemate. We ended up having a system that's done in a rush. And once it was done in a rush, then it has led us to having this crisis where an expert stands and says, what you have is all porous. It's all for games. It was meaningless. And some of these people can sit down in court and hack the system in your presence and make you look like a fool.
Okay. So going forward, before I talk to Ben Mulu about this, what is the near solution to this? How do we convince Kenyans that it's not as bad as it looks?
No, it is as bad as it looks.
But how do we convince Kenyans? Because they're poking a lot of holes right now on this system.
I think let's make the identification system work. We've just come from an elaborate process of census. The same data that was in NIMS is available on census. Probably you want to retain the identification number and collapse all these numbers into one thing, which we started with the driver's license that had a chip that was to carry all these things. If you go to the UK, you just ask, give us your driver's license.
Yeah. They have everything about you.
Everything. It is all in all. Yeah. So don't give. If that has failed, as it has sadly done, the identification process, the IDs that we have, You probably want to say we will have a new generation ID. The government already has all these numbers that they were seeking. Collapse them, each document for one person, and distribute them to the lowest units, which is the sub-locations existing in the country.
All right, Ben, thank you for joining us. And very interesting indeed, this issue of the name system. And Kenyans are asking a lot of questions, and Osiany has tried to explain this.
Yes.
But still, what worries me is the fact that we were pushed to take this up.
Absolutely.
And the government did not properly think think the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Didn't explain, didn't involve Kenyans, and now we're told this integrity of this system is questionable. In fact, it goes to the level of anyone
Yes.
can hack it. I mean, the security test that was done in it, it's appalling and it's disturbing.
Yes.
Yes, and it's a tragedy for this country.
You know, Ken, foremost, I'm on record. Actually, I was seated exactly here.
That's what I told David.
Yes.
We spoke about this.
When I pointed out to Kenyans that this entire Huduma exercise was a scam. And to me, it qualifies to be a scam on the basis of the following. First, there was no infrastructure in place to guarantee the safety or the security of the data Kenyans are providing. That, I think, for any government should be the primary concern before you roll out anything. Secondly, the entire process was shrouded in secrecy until Matiang'i started issuing ultimatums to Kenyans, urging them to register for a number they were not even aware of. There was no indication that there was any process before, especially public participation. You remember even Parliament was on record insisting that they were never involved in the process, even in terms of ratifying for this particular exercise.
For the people behind it to go to Parliament and explain.
And
no one appeared.
Nobody appeared. You see, that was, to me, those are hallmarks of a process that is designed to fail and designed by tenderpreneurs, as has been the habit for the last 7 years within the Jubilee administration, which is very unfortunate. Because in my view, the people behind this exercise were more keen on the 6 billion shillings that they were to pay out to some. Up to today, we don't even know who provided that system. We don't even know how that system was procured. So in my view, the entire process was not different from Kimwarere and Naror, whereby we end up being bombarded with intricacies that we were not aware of when money has been lost. Because as far as I'm concerned, we lost money on this particular
6 billion.
We lost 6 billion shillings. And you remember, Kenyans were questioning, why are we spending 6 billion shillings on an exercise we do not understand?
And
yet we have another 18 billion shillings on a very elaborate exercise. And
which was, by the way, unnecessary.
And then what even bothers me most is, you remember Dr. Matiang'i started issuing figures. Oh, we have reached 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 40 million. Then suddenly they start asking Kenyans during the census, did you register for Huduma Namba? That's an indicator that it was a mass failure. And that's an indicator that they were not able to really convince Kenyans that this was something that they needed. Believe you me, Kenyans have got no problem at all, personally included. I have no qualms at all. Having a centralized one card that actually carries all the information that I need, so that I can just use one card instead of carrying a wallet with too many cards for all the transactions that I need, whether in government or the private sector. But now when the processes are shrouded with this kind of secrecy and the government resorts to intimidation rather than being able to educate Kenyans on the processes, then to me it is an indicator of failure. And my friend here, Osiany, is a policy expert. You'll agree, any policy that does not involve the key stakeholders, and in this particular case, the stakeholders included ordinary Kenyans, there is no way that can be a success. Okay. But believe you me, if we are convinced, like you remember with the census, Kenyans understand what the census entails, and Kenyans did not have qualms. We didn't require threats to participate. Actually, we
were threatened. We were told you can't go to the bus.
No, that was. I mean, sometimes you realize, because there has been that character within Kenyans. It was important to ensure at least Kenyans are home, because it is an important exercise. But again, it points out, why did we have to insert a question on the Huduma Namba in the questionnaire on the census, yet we did not ask the pertinent questions that the government needs to collect information on? For example, Nobody asked me whether I have been to any public facility in the last 6 months or 1 year and sought services, and whether the services were successful. Because census is supposed to be for planning purposes. I expected them to want to know, do your children go to public primary school? Yes or no? How is the experience? Do your children, like now, because we are dealing with the disaster that happened in Ngando this particular week, when was the last time you were in a public hospital? How was the experience? When was your last time at a police station? How was the experience? Those are the things that we should have been asking about, not whether you have a Huduma Namba, how many wives you have, and those kinds of things.
You have a boat.
Yes. Whether you have a boat.
You know, Ken, let's all agree here.
Yes.
Was the idea of NIMS, or what they call Huduma Namba, a good idea? Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
Was it going to be helpful for this country in terms of, planning and things like that? Yes, it was. Was it executed well? No, it wasn't. Just the same way we are upset about Aror Kimarer, where we have lost billions of shillings. We should be as angry that 6 billion is lost.
Absolutely, yes.
19 plus 6 get 25 billion.
I need to watch an investigative story about who really won the tender to do this.
Absolutely, yes.
Because if the person who won the tender to do this has done such a shoddy job, it means he overquoted and underworked.
Absolutely.
He ended up just playing with the games. So either it's because he understood that this was money for keeps and for eating.
Yes.
Or he just decided to be greedy and play with Kenyans. And this is someone who, unlike Aror Kimwarer, has put the country's security at risk.
At risk, absolutely.
This is someone who should be at committee.
This is somebody who I pray and hope Kinoti will have gotten down to today.
Yes.
Because you cannot take Kenyans through such a sensitive project
and
play games with them.
Absolutely.
And play games with such a serious matter. I long and desire, in fact, I was saying when the census was being done, I remember quipping in one of the television stations that we should have used this opportunity for census to locate on GPRS every single house.
Absolutely.
So that when a mail arrives to you from the village, it can be delivered at your doorstep.
Yes.
They will know you live in Kawangware 46 Kombo number 8 block 5. They know it. The letter will get there to you. The IT department of the country should have gotten this good opportunity to formulate, to have data on where everyone lives, at least that location, so that by the end of the day everyone knows going forward. When you say your physical address, this is where your physical address will be.
Absolutely.
These are the details of your physical address.
Absolutely.
But that wasn't thought out, so we will think about it in 2029 when I will be serving this country in another capacity.
When we have
So I need us to get back with a lot of anger. Because the person who's done that, even the people who did not take up the NIMS number, had it been done so well, had the data had integrity, were we assured of if we had been assured of the integrity of that data and that it was kept well, if our data protection laws were existent, then the people who did not take it up would have rethought and said, actually,
it's a good thing.
Think about it.
We should have done it.
Because on a serious note, Ken, I want to agree with David. I am one of the people who refused, and up to today I'm not registering for that Huduma Namba thing, because my concern,
you were safe.
Yes, my concern.
No, I did.
Me.
You did.
I did. Yes. But personally, I really have got no problem with a good initiative coming from government. And this I'm speaking to individuals starting with the Dr. Matiang'i and his cohort, who always believe people who criticize bad initiatives by government are anti-government. No, we are not anti-government. In fact, our prayer, as some of us have always been, when President Uhuru Kenyatta succeeds, the whole country succeeds. When he fails, the whole country fails. Some of us cannot be a part of failure. We cannot agree to do that when we have the opportunity to speak out. And that's why my problem was the integrity of the process. Because it was not clear. Up to date, we don't have that data protection law. They started rushing through Parliament, refusing first initially the summons by Parliament, but now rushing back to the same Parliament to pass laws to safeguard information that they had collected, information that even today, Matiang'i himself cannot tell you exactly who has access to that information and where that information is.
Where is this information
That's
stored?
a question. Even perhaps you can call Dr. Matiang'i to come and answer that question to Kenyans. So you realize how dangerous it is, because this is a sensitive sensitive information that was being collected in the villages by individuals who did not even understand how to fill out those forms. I used to see people under trees all over the village collecting and registering people. I mean, how ridiculous can it get? We have no problem with a national identification system that works for all Kenyans, but let the government lead from the front in safeguarding the citizens. We have seen hackers and all manner of characters. Actually, data mining today is a big business all over the world. We have seen even Facebook being fined for exposing individuals' data unprofessionally. So let's let the government lead from the front in protecting its citizens, not intimidating them and exposing them to unnecessary risks.
All right.
Yes.